Hey everyone, before we get into this episode of That's What G Said, wanted to mention a couple of sponsors of the podcast. First off, CindyCarava.com, full service realtor. If you need anything in the world of real estate, check out CindyCarava.com and send her an email. If you like to play fantasy sports, maybe you're someone that's into DFS, take a look at these next two. First up, Thrive Fantasy. It's a sports app, and if you use the promo code GINO and you download and you deposit $10, you'll get a $10 bonus. So give it a check out. Use that promo code GINO. And then Stable Duel. Our friends at Stable Duel are back. There's going to be a free contest on Breeders' Cup weekend. So if you like horse racing, you want to check out a free contest to get into with $20,000 in prizes over Friday, Saturday. Check out Stable Duel. Go download that app right now. On this episode, we're going to talk about the baseball playoffs. We're down to 3 teams, really. The Nationals are in the World Series, and the Yankees are trying to make a comeback in down 3-1. We're going to talk about football plays for the weekend, college and pro football. We'll recap some of NFL Week 6, NFL Week 7, and then some horse racing plays for the weekend. So enjoy this episode of That's What G Said. Thank you, Joey. Appreciate that. Need a little perk up after the last week and a half, 10 days or so. As far as the sports rooting and the gambling are concerned, for me, folks, this was probably going on like the worst 10-day period ever. And now, remember, I'm talking about sports. I'm talking about betting. I'm not talking about serious life stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm losing some money. That's not a joke. I'm not talking about health issues or anything like that. I'm talking about as far as my wagering, as far as like a work and a rooting interest. Just a brutal couple weeks. I appreciate all you listening in, and I hope that it's been a better for you. Let's go through the misery for me. Where did it start? I guess it was 2 Thursdays ago with the Rams. When they lost on a field goal, when they missed a field goal. It wasn't like they lost to a game-winning field goal. They missed a 44-yard field goal to win the game. So that's there. Obviously, the Dodgers. The Dodgers were the team that I was so invested in every year, but this year in particular, it looked like they had a huge shot to get back to the World Series. They're up 2-1 in their best-of-5 series. They're up 3-1 in the 8th inning at home in Game 5 to move on to the next round, and they don't get the job done. USC loses a game to Notre Dame where USC should have been up much bigger earlier in that game. 5 times in a row, got to the 50, and got 3 points out of that. End up losing by a field goal. So that's tough, right? The teams you root for all kind of simultaneously having tough time at the same time, right? Couple losses now for USC to deal with this year. The Dodgers, disappointment. The Rams, obviously disappointment now. They're 3-3. But then the wagering. Prior to last week in the NFL, we were 20-12 against the spread. Just an excellent start. Last week, 0-6 in the NFL. 1-2 in college. I gave out 5 horses on the show. We bet them all, the 5 horses, because they were all the nice prices. So we played 5 horses to win. None of them won. I don't think any hit the board. I don't think there were any in the top 3. So all the teams lost. And then from a wagering standpoint, 0-6. 1-2 in 0-6 NFL, 1-2 college. All 5 horses we played lost. It was just brutal. From like a volume standpoint, right? I've been alive in pick sixes and big pick fives and big wagers for, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. I think 750,000 was the highest I've ever been like alive for one time in a pool where nobody else was alive on tickets and unfortunately wasn't able to cash. So those were from like a life-changing, that was like a worse day. That's something that this was more of like a volume for it to happen repeatedly over and over and over. And we're going through some of the games in a bit when we recap the NFL. There were a couple of them that were bad beats, the Browns one in particular. But for the most part, we just got our ass kicked. That's how it happens some weeks, right? You just get beat the hell up. So when it's that bad, there's nothing you can do but just laugh. Although what's nice, I'm already feeling better about the week. Make sure to follow along on Twitter. It's me, Gino B, and on social media. Because sometimes if we haven't recorded a pod or if there are things that happen in between recordings, we'll post on Twitter. And very lucky, last night wasn't going to be able to get this show recorded before the Thursday night football game. So we were able to post with the Thursday night play there with the KC minus the 3. And then Mahomes goes down. And right off the bat, we're going, oh no. Get a great start. Mahomes goes down. But we're able to capitalize on that one. So the week is already turning around. We got a win this week, which is more than we got in all 6 of our plays last week. It's in the past. Now we're moving on. Those Washington Nationals. Wow. Beat the Dodgers, and they just turned the National League Championship Series into a 4-game series, and they just swept the St. Louis Cardinals, and they did it with the template. They're pitching. They only started 8 pitchers in the series. They got 7 innings from Strasburg in his start, 7 innings from Scherzer in his start, 7 and 2/3 from Sanchez, and they got another 5 from Corbin. This is exactly what the Nationals needed to do in order to win series and in order to have an opportunity to win the World Series. And hey, they have a huge opportunity, right? What's the weakness that we've said with some of the teams this year? Their bullpens, a team like the National, maybe their depth. If they don't have to get deep into that bullpen, they can beat anybody. Yes, anybody, the Yankees or the Astros. You're telling me that this Washington team with their 3 pitchers doesn't match up very, very well with the Astros? You wouldn't love to see a Scherzer versus Verlander, a Cole versus Strasburg, and then a Greinke versus Corbin? Washington can win those games, absolutely. And you don't need a ton, right? When your pitching is giving you, they need their pitchers to give them those performances. From the rest of their team, if you're getting top-level pitching performances from those 3 starters, and then let's even include Anibal Sanchez in the mix, right? If he's pitching this well, he deserves to be included. All they need is, Rendon, who's been consistent, and then maybe 1 or 2 players in the World Series to step up. What Soto struggled in the NLCS, but it was Howie Kendrick who stepped up, and he had 5 hits in the series, and he had 4 doubles and 4 RBIs. Yan Gomes had a couple knocks. Robles had a couple hits. Trey Turner was pretty good. Ryan Zimmerman was pretty good. That's enough when you have this pitching. They have enough. There was this weird, misconception that when the Nationals beat the Dodgers, it was like one of the biggest upsets of all time. Yeah, the Dodgers were favored. The Dodgers have a deeper team and they have a better team on paper. That doesn't mean that the Nationals beating them was such a crazy upset, because the Nationals are a good team with top level pitching, and they have enough with Rendon, with Soto, with Turner. It's a well-built team. Not like I'm jumping on a bandwagon here. This was a team when we did predictions all throughout the year. I thought they'd win their division. So when they didn't, and they were, struggling so early on in the year, I was scratching my head, because a team like this, when you have 3, and now we'll say even Sanchez, when you have such a good pitching staff, very rarely do you have losing streaks, right? I don't think you'll beat this team 3 times in a row. So you'll probably have to go kind of back and forth with them, because you're going to get good outings from their pitchers at least every other day. A Washington Houston series would be fun, and the Yankees, are they're in a little bit of trouble now. The Yankees are now down 3-1. I'm recording this on Friday noonish, a little before noon, and they're playing a little later on today. And it's going to be Verlander versus Paxton. But the Yankees are in some trouble now because they're going to have to deal with Verlander and Cole, and they've had opportunities, and it doesn't seem like this has been Boone's, from what I've seen and from some of the Yankee fans, doesn't seem like this has been Boone's best managed series. And we have not been seeing the type of power output in the playoffs that we saw, to get that rumor up about did they de-juice the ball, and now is it the same ball that was used throughout the regular season. So we'll see what happens in this Astros-Yankees game. We'll recap it for you on the next episode, and we'll give you a World Series preview in baseball. But as far as the Yanks are concerned, it's kind of the same thing. Their bullpen's been very strong, but they haven't quite had enough to match the quality starting pitching. And there's just been, it's what happens in baseball. There's been pivotal moments that it seems like the moves that Boone has made have not worked. That's what it comes down to, right? You make a crucial move, a pitching change, bites you. So a few days ago, I had asked some of you on social media to post your favorite scary movies of all time. And just to add a little incentive, I was offering $20 just to one random person who used the hashtag That's What G Said and left one of their favorite scary movies of all time, because I'm going to use some of these while I formulate the list, and the list will be ready to be voted on in the next episode of That's What G Said podcast. And between now and Halloween, we'll be voting on the best scary movie, and we'll have a couple guests on to talk about some of their favorite scary movies. So some of that were mentioned, Nightmare on Elm Street, When a Stranger Calls, The Orphan, let's see, Poltergeist, The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, all good ones. Chucky, Child's Play, yeah, Halloween, The Bird, Psycho, that was another good one, good mention. So big thanks to everyone out there who got involved. And the winner, the contest winner, and I'm only going to be announcing this on here, so hope I'll make sure to let everybody know that they have to be tuning in to hear the winner. Michael W. on Twitter at Fun162 Helter Skelter was the one that he had selected. So it was just a random randomizer that picked, and Helter Skelter was the one that he said scared the hell out of him. So Michael W. at Fun162, make sure to send me a message, and we will talk about how to get you your prize. So Michael W. at Fun162 is the winner, and we'll be back with the full bracket. Just figuring out if we're going to do 32 or 64, kind of going through the last few, finishing up my research, and then we'll have the bracket out, and we'll start the voting on the next episode and early next week for the best scary movie. So if you have any other last-minute ones that you want to share, make sure to send me a tweet, post on Facebook, Instagram, with your favorite scary movies. Right now, stop what you're doing. Head on over to cindycarava.com and give a look to the full service realtor, Cindy Carava, who can take care of anything that you need in the field of real estate, buying, leasing. If you're interested in improving your home and you're looking for vendors, maybe you need help with a pre-approval for a loan, she can connect you with lenders. Someone who is the nicest and most genuine person you will ever meet. You can absolutely trust her in anything. She works out here in the San Gabriel Valley and also out of North San Diego County, so right around the racetracks, Santa Anita, and then down at near Del Mar. cindycarava.com. Maybe you're just interested in finding out how much your home is worth. You want to find out the value. She can help you out. Anything you need, tell Cindy I said hello, and give her a little support, because she's been a big supporter of That's What G Said podcast. College football 1-2 last week. So, God, college football numbers are ugly right now. 9-11 against the spread. 2 bad weeks really are the ones that killed us. It was last week and then going, I think, 2 weeks back. And we just been on the wrong side on college football. Changes this weekend. Just 2 plays for you in the college football slate. There are a couple big games this week. Oregon, Washington, Arizona State, Utah. So a couple big games in the Pac-12, although that Arizona State-Utah game, we say it's a big game, but Utah is heavily favored in that game by almost 2 touchdowns. I think it's around 13.5 right now. And then Michigan, Penn State. And what do you do in this game, right? We all know about how bad Harbaugh has been in big games, how bad Harbaugh has been on the road, and now has to travel to go play a Penn State team who's looked very good so far this year. That was one that hurt us with Iowa. Penn State. I felt like Iowa was on the right side of that game. Nonetheless, this is one I stay away from. These big games with Michigan right now, I can't get the right feel for Michigan. But that'll be one of the prime games of the weekend. USC, as far as my fandom is concerned, they play Arizona this week, and I thought USC played pretty well against Notre Dame last week. 5 drives, all past midfield, all to the Notre Dame side. You get 3 points out of that, and then you're in trouble. USC's able to come back late, and there were a couple bad calls that did hurt the Trojans late in that game, but more than what hurt them, more than the referees hurting them, it was just early on in the game, not being able to convert drive after drive after drive after drive. Some of the games I was looking at, Oregon, Washington, going to be one of my plays this week. So Oregon's going to Washington. Washington's +3 in this game. Oregon is 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 road games. This is a very good Oregon team and kind of a different Oregon team than we're used to seeing most years, right? You think Oregon, you think really high scoring team that's going to beat you, like win games, score 60 points, but give up 30. This is a different Oregon team. They have a really, really good defense. Although when you dig into it a little more, they haven't played many great offenses. They've played a couple of good teams, but teams that are not strong offensively. So I think their strong defense might be a little bit overrated, a little bit overhyped, and they're going to have to play a Washington team who actually has a legitimate quarterback. Jacob Eason is a first-round QB prospect. He's currently the number 4 ranked quarterback prospect behind Tua, Justin Herbert, and Jake Fromm. And he actually started at Georgia ahead of Fromm. He was a starter back with Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. Then he got hurt and he transferred. This guy's legit, Eason. And I think he'll be able to score and kind of go back and forth with Oregon in this game. And I think you're going to see 2 really good quarterbacks going back and forth. This is going to be a fun game, a tight game. I think Washington is a better coach team. They're at home. And that's why I'm going to lean Washington plus the 3 in here. And I wouldn't talk you off playing Washington on the money line in this spot either. I think they're going to win this game straight up. You look at Oregon, they've also lost their leading receiver. Tight end Jacob Breeland is out for the year. He had 405 yards and 6 touchdowns in 6 games. This is the biggest game of the year for Washington, and Oregon is going to have to go up to Washington and play in a really, really tough environment where they proved before they're just not as great of a team on the road. I like Washington in here at home plus the 3. That's one of my plays, one of my just 2 plays in college this week. The other play, Virginia minus the 3 against Duke, the Dukies, the Duke Blue Devils. This line moved down from 5. Virginia lost back-to-back games. First, they lost at Notre Dame, 35-20. They actually had more total yards than Notre Dame and 7 minutes more on the time of possession than Notre Dame. Virginia was up 17-14 at half. They had 4 turnovers in the second half and a turnover on downs where they couldn't get a 4th and 1 at the Notre Dame 32. They basically gave away 14 points on 2 turnovers that were score and then set up another score. That game isn't as bad as it looks. I know, we bet Virginia that week, remember? There's no way Virginia shouldn't have covered against Notre Dame. And then last week against Miami, they go at Miami. Virginia has 6 times inside inside Miami 30, and they get just 3 field goals and only 9 points out of that. 1 blocked field goal and a fumble. They had more first downs, more total yards, and better third down efficiency, and almost 9 minutes more in time of possession, and they lost that game. So 2 losses that look bad, tough losses. Now you come home. This is their first home game since September the 21st. Virginia minus the 3 against Duke. 2 plays this week. Washington plus 3 at home against Oregon. Virginia minus the 3 against Duke. Those are the 2 plays this week. So NFL week 6 was a week of penalties. Right? It just was every game when I'm doing my rewatches, which I always do kind of like Monday, Tuesday, I'll go back and rewatch all the games from Sunday and Monday, and Giants, like just going through each of the games. Giants, Patriots, big penalty in that game where they absolutely mugged Tate. You know, you go down to the Browns got royally screwed. There were like 5 calls in the Browns game last week that were not penalties that they got called against them. And I understand when you're a team that's been undisciplined and you've been sloppy to start the year, you're going to get the reputation that you're that type of a team. But the Browns really got hosed. And it's one thing for there to be 1 bad call, but when there's 5, 6, 7 bad calls, it's a little different. Go back and watch that Texans-Chiefs game. There might have been the worst call I've ever seen in my entire life watching a game. Travis Kelce was getting mugged, and Patrick Mahomes could see it, and so he knew there was going to be a penalty. So he just threw the ball up in the end zone, basically like a free play, and Houston intercepted it. Well, the referees called pass interference, even though Kelce was not the intended receiver. It should have been defensive holding. Instead, they just picked the flag up, and they let the interception stand, and that completely changed that Texans-Chiefs game. I mean, it was literally giving away an interception. It was one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't believe anybody with common sense. And the thing that makes it even worse in a lot of these games, they're having the time to stop, watch, review the plays over, and they double down on their mistakes. It is getting pathetic. It really is, because it's costing lots of people money. And when I say lots of people, I'm not just talking about me, the gambler, or all of us, the fantasy football players. I'm talking about players, coaches, all of them, lots and lots of money. Organizations, franchises, the difference between winning and losing a playoff game and making it another round, the difference between getting into the playoffs or not, the difference between players getting their bonuses for some of their stats, the difference between players making teams and not getting cut, the difference between coaches getting fired and not. All of this, penalties impact all of that. Penalties that are not penalties. And last week was the worst. And again, I think it affected me as a gambler in maybe 2 of the games of the 6 that I lost. I'm not going to pretend like I was going to have some winning week if things were different. But there were definitely 2 or 3 games that I was involved in where a different call completely changes that game. And I'm sure all of you as a fan and as a bettor and seeing, and as fantasy football players and just in general, it's getting a little bit frustrating now. And I feel like because we have such great technology and we're all watching on great television with the ability to freeze and start and stop, we can see everything way better than we ever could before. But so can they. They have the high definition, technology also. And there's just no room for these mistakes anymore. When you go to review, right? If there's no review and you're just going on human element and there's going to be some mistakes, that's fine. But it seems like when they change the rules and now that they can review pass interference, the referees basically have stuck their foot down now and said, screw you guys. We're not going to make a change, and we're not going to basically call ourselves out on missing something and being wrong. They're being really stubborn, and it's just getting out of hand. And as I say that, we're going to talk about all these games we're going to bet this week. But it's kind of quickly recapping what happened in week 6. So the Bucks-Panthers game, if you didn't watch that London game and you didn't wake up early like I did and see the 7 turnovers from Tampa, the 6 turnovers from Jameis Winston, 5 interceptions. This was like the worst game he's ever played. This was unbelievable how miserable it was. And again, an instance where was some of it because of Carolina and their good defense? Absolutely. Was a lot of it because Jameis just was horrible and making throws that he shouldn't have made when he could just throw the ball away, trying to do too much? Yes. That's when I have a tough time gauging, right? How good is Carolina? Because I watched this game and any team playing Tampa would have won this game easily. When some team turns the ball over 7 times, like Tampa had more total yards. Tampa was better on third down. They had more yards per play, but they had 7 turnovers and 9 penalties. That's never going to help. Seahawks-Browns game, I mean, this one's going to just sit with me for a while. Wilson is the obvious MVP. I'm not going to pretend like Seattle isn't a good team. They just haven't shown that they're a great team. Really frustrating. They keep getting gifts. Seattle was down 20-6 in this game. And they had a 1st and 24 on their own 13. There was a roughing the passer. Ends up turning into a 35-yard penalty. And it basically gives them a field goal with 10:49 left in the half. So now it's 20-9. The Browns punt, and then the punt is blocked. Seattle gets the ball, and they kick another field goal. Now it's 20-12. So they were just given a couple gifts on a penalty and on a blocked field goal. There was a horrible call on a clip from Landry that was not a clip. There was a terrible call on a defensive hold against the Browns. That was the defender did not touch the Seattle receiver whatsoever. Another roughing the passer call that was not a roughing the passer call. There were legitimately 5 calls against the Browns that were not penalties. They had 9 penalties for 83 yards, and they should have had 4, maybe 5. I mean, the Browns took the lead 28-25 in this game before Seattle was able to come back and score a touchdown, take a 32-28 lead with 3:30 left. And Baker Mayfield, he got a little banged up in this game. He threw a couple interceptions that really weren't his fault, to be honest. They weren't. Especially the last one. It was a little behind him, but it was right in Hilliard's hands, and it went out of his hands into the arms of the Seattle defender. Another one of the other interception, Odell and the defensive back weren't, and a different defensive back, not the one that was even defending him, ran into each other. Just some dumb luck for the Browns. And that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes with teams, when you're good, you're rolling, you get a little lucky. I feel like there are 3 or 4 teams right now that have just been the real beneficiary of repeated game luck. And that'll probably even out throughout the year. Yeah, that Texans-Chiefs game where the Chiefs were rolling early on. And that one play changed the whole game. It was 17-9. They're driving. They had the opportunity to get up again early. And that defensive should have been a pass interference. Then it should have been defensive holding. Instead, they just give the interception to the Texans. It would have been Kansas City ball first down at the Houston 20. Instead, it was Houston ball at their own 20. They come right down and score a touchdown in 17-16 instead of being either 20 or 24-9. And then Houston was able to run the ball after that. See, that's the thing. If you get up on the Chiefs, you can run the ball. But if you're behind, you can't run the ball. It's going to be a different Chiefs team, though, over these next few weeks because now Mahomes will be out for at least 3 weeks after the injury that he suffered on Thursday Night Football. And that's a bummer because Mahomes is such a stud. And he suffered a dislocated kneecap, not significant additional damage. He'll seek options to be sure. The plan is for him to return this season after a brief absence. So they're thinking it's actually been as best case scenario as possible for the injury for Mahomes. And now the Chiefs are 5-2. That was a big win for them. You know, they got up 20-6 against the Broncos and it felt like, uh-oh. You know, it kind of kept, if you backed the Chiefs like I did, I was like, uh-oh. I kept feeling like the Broncos are going to come back. The Broncos are going to come back. The Broncos are going to come back. Not when you sack them 9 times and Flacco was just miserable. I mean, he was miserable. He was 21 for 34, but he just was slow. He couldn't get the ball away. He was, indecisive, just awful. Awful. We saw a battle of the bads in the Redskins-Dolphins, which was fun. I'm glad that the Dolphins went for 2 at the end of the game. They score a touchdown. They're down by 1. They have the opportunity to tie the game up by kicking the extra point, and instead they go for 2. I think, what do you want to do? You're going to go to 1-5, 1-6? No. If maybe you win the game, you pump your team up. You don't want to go to overtime. I like what they're doing here. And you know what? They didn't make it, and it's not really an issue because they want to tank anyways. Vikings, they for the most part, they beat up the Eagles last week. They really focused a lot on Stephon Diggs, and now we've seen back-to-back weeks from Kirk Cousins where the Vikings have picked on bad secondaries. The Eagles' defense isn't bad overall, but their secondary is not very good. And at one point, this game was 24-3. And when you play the Vikings, a team who has such a good defense, and they're able to get up like that early on with their defense, and then they can kind of tee off on you defensively. They can sit back. You become one-dimensional because you can't really run the ball anymore. So we saw Sanders with a couple receptions for 86 yards and a touchdown. Jeffrey with 76 yards for the Eagles, but it was 24-17 with 12:11 left in the third quarter. You had a Diggs drop. The Eagles got the ball back, and there was an Alshon Jeffrey catch. He steps out of bounds. It cost them a touchdown, and it cost them tying the game. And they kick a 40-yard field goal instead, so it's 24-20, and that really was Philly's chance because Minnesota comes right back with a 9-play, 75-yard touchdown drive, and they go up 31-20. And then they were able to put the game away 38-20. Big game for the Vikings coming up this week. Actually, big games for both of these teams coming up this week. We'll get to those games in just a minute. In the Saints-Jags game, we just saw that Saints D dominate again, and Minshew struggled. And this Saints team is a lot better than I thought. And you know what? That score wasn't even quite 13-6. The Saints had the opportunity to score again late, and they just ran the ball and ran the clock out. And it's a good football team. They're one of the best football teams in the league, and they're going to be getting Breeze back soon. Unbelievable job Bridgewater has done. Just a lackluster road win for Baltimore in the Ravens-Bengals game. But hey, you know what? The Ravens will continue to take lackluster wins as long as they're winning in that division right now that they have taken a stranglehold on after the Browns loss. Cardinals, Atlanta, Matt Bryant misses an extra point to tie the game. Like, anything that can go wrong for Atlanta will go wrong, right? God, how bad has it been for the Falcons? Unbelievable. And now the Falcons have to deal with the Rams this week. I can imagine that there are going to be some changes being made soon in Atlanta. Do you think they fire Quinn mid? I mean, he's on all the lists of like next head coach to get fired. You'd imagine. I mean, that's brutal. You tie the game with 1:53 left. You think you tie the game, and you miss the extra point. Just rough. 49ers, they beat up the Rams on the scoreboard, and they beat the hell out of the Rams in the second half. And I watched this game, and the 49ers defense is excellent. But it's hard because when I have these discussions, like every time I watch these good teams, these teams that have done well so far this year, like I watch the Patriots, I watch the 49ers, I watch Seattle, and I think a lot of it has to do with those teams, but a lot of it has to do with who they've played also, right? And I don't know if it'll even out or not, and maybe these teams will all win 13 and 14 games, and they're some of the best teams in the league. But when I watch this 49ers game, right, great start for the Rams. They force a 3-and-out, sack on third, they get the ball on their own 44 to start. They just run the ball right down the 49ers' throat. 9 yards, 10 yards, 7 yards, 9 yards. Inside handoff to Woods. Brown for 5. Woods for an 8-yard touchdown. They're up 7-0 right away. 9:17 left in the first. And then the 49ers come right back with a long touchdown drive. They get a big 3rd and 8 they pick up a big 3rd and 8 on their own 38. It was a Rams offsides. It actually made it a 3rd and 3. So again, they get a little lucky there, right? Offsides. Instead of a 3rd and 8, it's a 3rd and 3. negates a sack, but the guy offsides made the sack, so it was actually a good call. And then Jimmy G, with the pocket closing, with lots of pressure around, he stands in. He made a great throw to Kittle because that was a huge play. It was a first down. It gets him into Rams territory. They're able to score a touchdown, and they tie the game 7-7. And then you have a really bad possession for the Rams with a negative run, a 6-yard pass and the sack. The 49ers moved the ball well. There was a deep flea flicker that they dropped. Actually, they had an opportunity to get maybe some more points there on the board. And then they hit Kittle for a big pass, 1st and goal at the 7, 3rd and goal at the 1, and then Jimmy G was just off on a timing route, so he throws an interception. So some squandered points there for the 49ers. The Rams start to move the ball. They pick up a couple first downs, and then Goff badly misses Woods, and then a holding penalty. That hurts the Rams, so they shoot themselves in the foot again. Was the miss to Woods and the holding penalty, maybe the holding penalty because the 49ers defensive line is so good, but the miss to Woods was just a miss on Goff. 49ers go 3 and out. They punt from their own end zone. Then the Rams, they get the ball from their own from the 46. They're at the 46. Darrell Henderson, 22 yards and 14 yards and 4 yards. He gets down to the 1. It's 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and they get stopped. Credit to the 49ers, but again, when you have 2 drives and you have 2 chances to get a yard for the Rams, and you just can't do it. It's 1st and 10 at midfield for the 49ers, and Littleton for the Rams drops an interception, wide open interception, right? So the Rams had a chance to go up 14-7, 3rd and goal and 4th and goal at the 1. They can't do it. 49ers get the ball. A pick 6 would have put the Rams up 14-7, and Littleton drops that. So you see what I mean in these games like this? After the Littleton drop, it was complete domination for the 49ers. But prior to that, the Rams had an opportunity to change the script on this game and to make it a different game. So when I watch the 49ers play, I'm impressed with them because of their coaching, because they don't seem to get rattled, and they have a great defense and they can run the ball. All positives. And so what I end up doing every time I watch them play someone, I get a little bit more disappointed with the team that they played because of all their self-inflicted wounds. There were a lot of reasons that the Rams shot themselves in the foot in this game. We've mentioned a bunch of them already. After that, though, total beatdown for the 49ers. That's what a good team does, right? That's what a well-coached team does. They make adjustments, and the Rams have not been making very many adjustments this year. Sean McVay is not, he got thoroughly out-coached in this game by Shanahan. Obviously, Shanahan has to be, right now, in line for Coach of the Year. I'm so impressed with what he does with this squad. Final score of this game is 20-7. And let me say, there are versions of this game where the Rams are up a little bigger early, but there are versions of this game that are 45-7, 49ers. They miss opportunities, deep in drives, and they have definitely vaulted and jumped to, we'll see how good, but they are one of the best teams in the league right now, and they are playing as well as anyone right now. Broncos shut out the Titans, and now they're going to make a change because of that shutout to Tannehill. It's funny because the Broncos have already played twice. They shut out the Titans 16-0, but then they came back and they got beat up by Kansas City on Thursday Night Football. The Jets with Sammy Darnold with a big win. How about that? Beating the Cowboys. Darnold looked good. And one thing that not enough people are discussing is the Cowboys defense is really struggling this year. This Cowboys defense that has been so good and was thought to be so good, they're currently ranked 25th in defensive efficiency, and that's being ranked 25th based on who they've played so far. Unbelievable cake schedule for the Cowboys to start the season. So their defense should be a lot better. And, that's something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about when they're talking about some of Dallas' struggles. The defensive end. The Steelers-Chargers game, that was 24-17. And honestly, it really wasn't even that close. The Chargers did have an opportunity late in that game, but the Steelers were beating them up throughout. And the Chargers' injuries are just piling up and piling up and piling up, and they're becoming too much now. What we're seeing with some of these teams that we expected to be better, teams that were good last year, I'll even throw Kansas City in the mix, even though they won Thursday night. Kansas City with the Rams, with the Chargers. Some of the one major issue that all of those teams share is their offensive lines are not very good. And they're not nearly as good as they were last year, and they're not giving them enough time. Plain and simple. And then that Packers-Lions game. What a horribly officiated game that was. That was embarrassing that multiple times there were complete phantom penalties called against Detroit. I think there were 3 when I went back and watched that were just horrible, abysmal calls. And that is the difference between winning and losing. A lot of these games and a lot of these teams are evenly matched. We look at the point spread. Some of these games, they're 2-3 points. So when a team loses by 2 and there were 2 or 3 bad calls, those are the difference in the game. The Lions got screwed. And this will give us the transition kind of into this weekend. Because they have a huge game coming up this week. Because you look at the Lions now, and there's back-to-back weeks now, or the week against Kansas City, and then this week against the Packers, where they were on the wrong side of a lot of calls. And how will Patricia get this team to rally? Can he rally them, or is this going to be something that they were dwelling on? Are they still talking about it, or did they say, you know what, screw this, let's move on to the next game now? We have to deal with the Minnesota Vikings team coming here to play us in a big division game. Here are the games this week. Cardinals at the Giants. Giants -3 over under in this game is 50.5. I would lean to the Giants in here. Everything that we're hearing is that the Giants are going to be healthier in this game. Looks like Ingram, Barkley will be back, and that's enough right there to make the Giants a 3-point favorite. I'm not going to make this one of my plays, but that will be the side I lean here. I just always want to mention how I'm impressed more and more each week with Kyler Murray. I'm not afraid to say when I'm wrong on someone. He's better right now than I thought he would maybe ever be. I just didn't think he would succeed, and he's already shown he has the ability to move the ball, and he's won a couple games. Now let's see if he can go on the road and win a game that he's not quite supposed to win, and this would be a small upset. I'm leaning Giants -3, but it's not going to be one of my 4 plays today. I'll end up having 4 plays. Second game, Texans at the Colts. And this line is -1. It's moved down from like -2, -2.5. It's down to -1. This will be one of my 4 plays this week. Indy is coming off the bye. They are very well coached, and they're getting healthy. Darius Leonard and Gathers look like they're going to be coming back. That's going to give their defense a big, big boost. And if there's going to be a tight divisional game, I'm going to lean towards the better coached football team, which I think is Indy and Frank Reich. I think you're going to get lots of Marlon Mack in this game. He's going to be healthier with the week to, not get as banged up off the bye. Remember, he had a lot of small issues early on in the season. Houston offensive line has looked great, the Texans, but they're going to be missing a piece to their offensive line now. They're going to be without Titus Howard. And when your offensive line is rolling, they've had back-to-back games where they have not given up a sack. And Deshaun Watson is 7-0 in his career in games where he's been sacked less than 2 times. And it's happened in back-to-back weeks now. You just want to have that offensive line and the cohesion. You want them to be the same starters playing together. And so any change in the line, I think, could hurt Houston a little bit this week. They're also coming off a big win against KC. Both of these teams are actually coming off a win against KC. I'm leaning Indy -1 at home. I think they're going to have this team well scouted. Frank Reich did a great job against Deshaun Watson last year. It seemed like each time they played them, they did a better and better job. So I'm leaning Indy in here. That's going to be one of my 4 plays this week. Indianapolis Colts -1 against the Texans. Dolphins at the Bills. Miami is a 17-point underdog in here. Buffalo is a solid team with a good defense, but Buffalo should not be a 17-point favorite against anybody. I'm sorry. They just don't score enough. Offensively, they don't. So they could absolutely get a couple defensive scores in here, but I'm staying away from this game. I could see this game being like 30-6. I could see this game being like, 20-6. And at 20-6, you don't cover. Right? So stay away from me in this Buffalo game. The over-under is 47.5. I mean, I'd lean under. Just, yeah. Not as far as the, no, excuse me. I had that written down wrong. That's why I was like, what? 47? And that's 41 on the over-under. I was like, what? That's way too long. My mistake writing it down wrong. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to play over under 47, Gino. Dipshit. How about you write that one down wrong? Vikings, Lions. This is a game I like this week. Going to be one of the plays for me. Detroit's coming off those tough losses to Kansas City and to Green Bay. Now they're home against the Vikes. Minnesota isn't as good on the road. Detroit really needs this game. They can't get down to 2-3-1 after what feels like has been a great start. So I'm banking on Patricia this week. I'm banking on everything I read about the Detroit coming into the season, about the locker room, how it was better, how DVOA liked them and had them projected higher. This is a huge game for their season. A huge game. And I'm expecting a big performance from Detroit. Minnesota has been throwing the ball on bad secondaries, and Detroit's defense is a little bit better than we think they are. They're actually an above average defense as far as defensive efficiency is concerned. So I'm taking Detroit in here. You can get this game at +2 in some spots. I think it's a game that you should actually even just play money line. If you get the +2, I think you should take the +2 and the money line. But I think Detroit's going to win this game straight up. So try to find the best money line that you can for Detroit straight up against the Vikes. Raiders at the Packers. This one's down to 5. Packers are a 5-point favorite in this game. A lot of people liking the Raiders. I'm seeing 4.5s now all over. And man, at 4.5, I would lean Green Bay. This game I stay away from though, because Green Bay is banged up. We don't know who they're going to be throwing the ball to. It doesn't look like Adams is going to be playing. Allison might also be out, and Valdez-Scantling. So we really don't know. Even Graham, they could be missing a ton of their pass catchers. It could be the Lazard show. 4.5 seems too short. So if you get 4.5 places, I'd lean that way, but this is not going to be one of my plays. This game scares me a little bit. Over under in this one. I'm seeing 46.5, 47. And this one is actually 46.5, 47, not like the Dolphins-Bills game that said the wrong number. Jags -3.5. At the Bengals. I mean, the Jaguars are the better team here, right? I'm seeing it now up to 4 in some spots. I stay away. I think the Jaguars win this game pretty easily. But here's the thing. Keep this in mind with some of the really bad teams and some of the really good teams. Like Cincinnati is going to win and play better in one of these games at home, especially. I don't think they're going to go 0-16. We probably won't have, they're going to run into the Dolphins, I think, later on in the year also. But even the really bad teams end up winning a couple games at home. So these 0-for teams, keep an eye on them, and the teams that are undefeated. Like this week, San Francisco and the Patriots have, what look to be on paper pretty easy games. But one of these weeks, they're just not going to, things just aren't going to be hitting on all cylinders. Although, when we talk about the Niners might have already had one of those games against Pittsburgh. That might have been the game that they played poorly and were supposed to lose, and Pittsburgh couldn't capitalize. So Rams -3 at Atlanta. I'm seeing a couple 2.5s, and at 2.5, I would really like the Rams. And even at 3, I would still lean towards the Rams. And then, at 3.5, I'd start to take Atlanta. I just don't know how you can back Atlanta right now. It's just kind of like expecting them to bounce back one of these weeks. Their defense is absolutely pathetic. And the Rams went all in. They made a couple trades. They have to win right now in this next year and a half. The Rams cannot lose another game. They cannot. Like, if you think there are problems for the Rams right now, if they lose to this Atlanta team, then shit's really going to hit the fan. 49ers. Crazy. Would you imagine if just like 6 weeks ago, if somebody told you that the 49ers were going to be a 10-point favorite on the road? You just said, huh? But they should be. I think they're 9.5. I'm seeing like at under 10. You absolutely take San Francisco. I think at over 10, I would lean on the Washington side. This won't be one of my plays. But how is Washington going to move the ball in the San Francisco defense at all? They're pretty pumped. They're coming off a big win last week against the Dolphins, but I just don't see how they move the ball at all in this 49er defense. What scares me about a game like this is I could see this game being like, if it was, 26-10, and then Washington gets a late garbage touchdown. That doesn't mean anything, and then all of a sudden it's 26-17 and you lose. That's what scares me about playing the San Francisco side of this game. Not that I think San Francisco is going to lose this game. Just that it's just high for a team, because we don't think of San Francisco as an offensive juggernaut. It's kind of like the same with the Bills game, right? We don't think of these teams as teams that are going to score 40 points offensively. Maybe they'll get a defensive score or two, and maybe that's built into this line here. Maybe that we might get a pick six or a fumble return with that bad Washington offense. Chargers at the Titans. Titans are up to -2.5. If this got to -3, I would play the Chargers. I mean, we're talking about Ryan Tannehill here. We know Ryan Tannehill. He's not great, and this Titans team is nothing to write home about. They're such a Jekyll and Hyde team. I steer clear of most of their games. The only time I play Tennessee games really is when they're coming off a big win, and I'll play against them. Because I know they're not consistent. Other than that, I never know when they're coming off losses. If this is like, they could win this game by 40 and it wouldn't surprise me. But at 3, I would go at +3. I'd lean to the Chargers. So if you can wait around and get this at +3, I'd lean to the Chargers. Ravens at Seattle. This is down to +3 in some spots. Like at +3.5, I would have been more on the Baltimore side. But at +3, I don't like it as much for Baltimore. What I do like in this game, and it will be one of my 4 plays, I'm going to play the over in this game. The over-under is 48.5. I played it at 48.5, and if it goes down to 48, absolutely play some more. But I don't want it to go back up to 49, so I'm okay with playing some at 48.5. These two teams are just really good offenses and not great defenses, right? Like, plain and simple. Seattle is the number 3 ranked offense, and Baltimore is the number 4 ranked offense in efficiency. And they are the number 18 and 22 ranked defenses. Even one, and this is kind of what I was saying about the Cowboys too. Even when you look at their schedule, right? Baltimore and Seattle, their defenses should be ranked higher. They should be better based on who they've played. Seattle played Cincinnati, New Orleans with the Teddy Bridgewater, Arizona, and Pittsburgh. Not great offenses, any of them. And Baltimore played Cincinnati, Miami, Arizona, and Pittsburgh. Not great offenses. These two teams' defenses are bad. I mean, the Browns went up and down on Seattle last week. The Browns could have and should have scored 40-plus points in that game if it weren't for a bad fourth down, like a bad 4th and goal call by Freddie Kitchens and just a unbelievable goal line stance there. Seattle should have lost that game to Cleveland. Seattle should have lost to the Rams because they survived a missed field goal on the last play of the game. They very easily could have lost their first week of the game, their first game of the year in week 1 to Cincinnati, and Seattle got the crap kicked out of them by the Saints. They got beat up. So I don't think either of these teams are that good, and I don't think either of these teams' defenses are that good. I'm playing over. Over is going to be my 3rd play in here, 48.5. Saints at Bears. This is up to +3.5, and I really want to make New Orleans a play at +3.5. But there's something that scares me about this game because it just looks a little too easy at plus 3.5. I think Trubisky's coming back. The Bears have both of these teams have really, really good defenses. I'm worried that one of these games we're going to get just a bad Bridgewater game where he a couple turnovers, maybe an interception. If New Orleans gets behind, they won't be able to run the ball as much. And we don't know if Kamara is going to be playing or not. At 3.5, I'd still take New Orleans, but I'm not going to make this game one of my plays because this one's a little weird to me. It scares me a little bit. The Philly-Dallas game also, I think it's pretty right on. Eagles are at the Cowboys. Cowboys are -3 in that game. The over-under is 49.5. 49.5 I'm seeing. Both of these teams need this game, right? I mean, Dallas has been really, really bad. And they've been bad against anyone with a pulse. They just beat up on weak opponents early and everyone was ready to crown them. Now, I don't think they're as bad as the script has flipped. So what makes this game hard is that both of these teams are coming off of games where they, on paper, got beat up a little bit. I mean, Dallas was down for a while in that game. And I mean, they were a big, big chalk losing to the Jets. Stay away game for me. I'll enjoy watching this game. I think the Eagles, I'd lean towards the Eagles. I just think overall they're the better team. And Dallas has got a ton of injury issues to deal with. We don't know who's going to be healthy for them. And Cooper would be a huge, huge loss. So stay away for me in this Eagles-Cowboys game. Fourth play is going to be the Jets. To me, this is just too high. I think this game should be like Patriots -7, 8. It's 10. You can get the Jets +10 at home. And a lot of people, like a lot of sharps I'm reading and hearing, are liking to play the Jets right now because they think they're just undervalued based on their overall record. When you look at a lot of their numbers and a lot of their statistics, they're talking about a team that was being quarterbacked by Simeon and Falk, and they had a lot of injuries to deal with. Well, now the Jets have Darnold back, and when you look at the Jets' defense, it's actually ranked number 16. And it is an above average, a positive defense as far as efficiency is concerned. They lost Mosley in week 1, and they've had to play the Patriots, the Cowboys, the Bills, the Browns, and the Eagles. I mean, the Patriots with a really good offense, the Cowboys with one of the best offenses, the Eagles with a fine offense, the Browns can move the ball too. So they've played a pretty tough schedule, and they still have an above-average defense based on that. Patriots are a little bit banged up. This is a divisional game. Same type of thing with, any of these big spreads. The Patriots could be up by 16 points here, and the Jets could get a garbage touchdown. But I don't think this game is going to be like that. I think the Jets team is going to play them feisty and tight. I think the Patriots will squeak out a win. I think it'll be like a touchdown win for the Pats late, with the Jets have an opportunity to drive and tie, and maybe they can't get in. So the Jets will be the play plus the 10. So 4 plays this week. Overall, 21-18 against the spread. We were 20-12 and then went 0-6 last week, and we were able to get back on the winning track with the Thursday night football game with KC. So 21-18 against the spread, 4 games this week. Lions. Let's play the Lions money line. If you can get +2, I think you take the +2 and the money line and play both of those. Colts -1. Like the Colts in here. Baltimore, Seattle over 48.5. If that thing gets down to 48, jump all over it also. But if you see the 48.5s, take some of that. And then the Jets plus the 10. Take the Jets in there plus the 10. 4 plays for me so far this week. Hey, NFL underdogs this year. 55-35-1 against the spread, 40-20-1 on the road. Numbers are close to that depending on, what numbers you're looking at. They might be off a game or two. You figure that'll change a little bit. But this week we have a good 4-pack for you, and we'll try to get back into the winning weeks. Didn't like that losing week last week. Yuck. Football fans, and really sports fans in general, there's a new DFS app for prop betting, and it's called Thrive Fantasy. So if you are someone who likes to wager on prop bets, you'll like this. If you are someone who plays DFS, maybe you play DraftKings or FanDuel, you'll like this. Go check it out right now. Deposit $10 and use the promo code Gino, and they'll give you a $10 bonus. So you'll have $20 to look through, to try a couple contests to see if you like it. I'm playing in these contests each and every week, and I can tell you right now, I actually won a contest last weekend. I've already made withdrawals via PayPal. This is a service that I trust. They do a great job, and it's a lot of fun, and you'll see me in there in the contest. I'm under That's What G Said. So go right now, download it, take a look, Thrive Fantasy, use the promo code Gino. They'll give you a $10 bonus credit right back when you deposit 10, and you'll have 20 to go play around and check a couple of the contests out. And let me know, and we'll play against each other in some contests. We can do some head-to-head matchups. It'll be a lot of fun. I enjoy it. You select your lineup very similar to how you would in a DraftKings or FanDuel. You know, you're going through, you're picking your lineup, and it's instead of the salary cap, you're going to pick 10 out of their 20 selected prop bets, and you're assigned a point wager for each one. So if you have any questions, let me know. I can help you with it. I enjoy playing it each and every week. That is thrivefantasy.com. Check out the Thrive Fantasy app. So just some other random NFL tidbits I wanted to get through. The Rams, they actually had a higher rating in their game last week in as far as DVOA is concerned against the 49ers. Something to look into. They were 0 for 15 converting third and 4 down opportunities, 0 for 6 in short yardage. And San Francisco converted 50% of theirs. So kind of saying that was the difference in the game, like a couple plays like that. The Packers are ranked very high in DVOA because they've played the third toughest schedule so far. That Kansas City-Houston game was also another one where Kansas City came out better on the DVOA rankings. Miami is clocking in at one of the worst teams all time as far as the rankings are concerned. Even though they're coming off their best game of the season, they continue to be among the worst teams ever on both offense and defense. And right now they are ahead of the 2013 Jacksonville Jags, who were the worst team through 5 games. Really, really bad. There's also a really big imbalance right now in the conferences as far as the AFC and the NFC. Right now, the NFC is much more solid, and the AFC is very top-heavy with a lot of bad teams in it. So just something to keep an eye on, because what we're seeing is in the wins and losses is actually, it doesn't always match up like with the advanced numbers and the advanced analytics, but it is so far this year when we're seeing some of these really bad teams in the AFC, and they're not really good on paper either. Let's get to our final segment. We're going to talk a little horse racing. You know, I was looking around trying to find at Santa Anita, and to be honest, folks, it was bad. At Santa Anita, couldn't find anything, and it's sad. I used to be able to all day long find some value throughout the day, and I just couldn't. So nothing at Santa Anita, unfortunately, on Saturday, but we do have a couple plays for you over at Keeneland. And the first one is in race number 5 at Keeneland. Get your past performances out October the 19th for Saturday. Let's go to race number 5. And these two horses actually, they kind of have similar profiles, strangely enough, in back-to-back races. The 12 Baudette Blizzard broke well, pressed from the outside, was up to contend before fading, and that was at Churchill Downs on September the 14th, and that was going 7 furlongs. Now you get the cut back to 6 furlongs with the outside. I think he can sit a little bit in here. And I'm hoping that's the trip for Baudette Blizzard, the number 12 in race number 5 at Keeneland. And in race number 7, going to go to the number 8, Wayne O. He had a nice start. He was right up the challenge for the lead. He took back a length to press, was all in early, he faded. That was back in the debut on August the 3rd. And then on August the 31st, he popped the gate, he cleared. He's very fast. He just tired at the top of the lane. And it's the same type thing, right? Now, he gets a cutback from 7. He's raced 7 twice at Saratoga. Now he cuts back to 6. I'm hoping he has the ability to just sit off the pace a little bit, but he's coming out of a good race with a productive next out winner. Wayne O is the other play on Saturday at Keeneland. 2 plays on Saturday at Keeneland. 5th race, number 12, and the 7th race, the number 8, Wayne O. Before we go, we have to talk about our friends over at Stable Duel. If you did not play in the Stable Duel contest before, if you're a horse racing fan, go check it out right now, especially because it's free. So what it is it's like daily fantasy sports, but it's just for horse racing. So on the Breeders' Cup days, there will be all the Breeders' Cup races, and you will be able to select horses based on a salary cap. So every horse you pick will be assigned a certain number under the salary cap. So you can't just pick the favorites in every race all the way down. And whoever, you can read through the rules, and I'm going to select a full lineup, and we'll go through all of it once the entries for the Breeders' Cup are out. It's a ton of fun, and it's free. They're offering $5,000 in prizes on Friday and then $15,000 on Breeders' Cup Saturday. So right now, go to StableDuel.com, download the app, and you're going to continue to hear more from me about Stable Duel in the next week and 2 leading up. Once the entries come out, we'll do a full segment where I go through selections, talk about which horses in each race fit best under the salary cap, and we'll do a full segment on it. So hopefully you guys want to get involved because it's a lot of fun. And anytime there's something for free, you might as well take a shot, right? Free when you can win thousands of dollars back. Thanks, everyone, for listening in. Hope you have an awesome weekend. And actually, we'll be back soon with another episode of That's What G Said. We're going to talk about the movie El Camino on Netflix, the Breaking Bad movie. We're going to talk about the last couple episodes of Ballers. We're going to preview the NBA season, which starts just next week. We'll preview the World Series. So the shows never stop right here on That's What G Said. Joey, my friend, close it out.